If you're trying to become the best Ningguang main that you can be, then you're at the right place. Welcome to my updated Ningguang guide where I'm going to go in depth to all of her talents, skills, passives, constellations, artifacts, weapons, and practically just go over everything you need to know to play Ningguang correctly. She's a really fun and really good Geo main DPS once you build her correctly, and she's actually insane. And she's also my favorite character. So all the info is coming from a person who's played Ningguang for practically 1.5 years straight, level 90, triple crowned, C6, so I think I know what I'm saying. So without further ado, let's get right onto the guide. So first, let's take a look at all of her talents. We have a normal attack, which is actually a huge part of her kit. Every time she does a normal attack, she'll just throw 2 rocks at the opponents going forward. Now if you actually hold forward while doing normal attacks, you'll actually shoot slightly faster. So if you really want to go min-max crazy, that's some really good information. Now every time a normal attack hits, she'll actually get 1 Star Jade. You can see how many Star Jades you have based on the number of rocks floating around Ningguang in a circle. Now when you do a charge attack, she'll actually throw out 1 huge rock, and she'll actually throw out all those Star Jades that she also has as well. So you hit someone 3 times, then you shoot off a charge attack, she'll do the charge attack and also 3 Star Jades. The cool thing about this is that the charge attack and the Star Jades actually track, and you can actually cancel the charge attack as well. If you're fighting an enemy and they die mid-charge attack, you can actually press sprint again to change direction. It will actually not make you use the Star Jades, which is really nice. So once again, this is a huge part of her kit because at level 10, the charge attack actually has a scaling up to 313%. Sadly, since she's a catalyst user, she automatically has a charge attack cost of 50. But thanks to her lovely passive, if you have any Star Jades, her charge attack will consume no stamina. So you get that 313% damage hit for free basically once you just do 1 normal attack and it hits. Although her Star Jades do a good amount of damage, her main damage from her normal attack is going to be her charge attack. So the best rotation for the best damage for Ningguang is actually normal attack, charge attack, normal attack, charge attack over and over. So that way you get that huge chunk of damage pretty often at no stamina cost, so it's actually really nice to do. Now for Ningguang's elemental skill, the Jade Screen. Basically she'll just splash down a Jade Screen while do AoE geo damage when it spawns in. Now the Jade Screen will actually block projectiles, which is really nice in certain situations, and it does scale off of max HP, but that doesn't really matter. Once again, it is a Geo Construct, so it does have some of the problems with Geo Constructs have right now, where if it hits like any big boss enemy for like 1mm of the hitbox, it will actually just destroy itself. So that could be a bit of a problem sometimes. Now this ability has a 12-second cooldown and actually has a big chunk of damage that it can do. At level 13 it does 490%. Now there's actually some utility to this Jade Screen as well. Thanks to a second passive, when you pass a Jade Screen with any character, that character will actually gain a 12% Geo damage bonus for 10 seconds. So after you place a Jade Screen, it's really recommended that you walk right through it immediately so you can get that 12% Geo damage bonus for your whole entire duration. It's really easy to park off, just walk right through it and walk again if you want to refresh it, and it's honestly just amazing. Now on to her elemental burst, the Star Shatter. Basically, Ningguang would just fly up and do a whole bunch of damage by sending homing Geo projectiles at her opponents. But if you use the burst while you're by a Jade Screen, the Jade Screen will actually destroy itself and fire off even more projectiles. So always try to use this ability when you have another Jade Screen on the field. The great thing about this ability is that it only has a 12-second cooldown and has a super low energy cost of 40. So if you pair up with any other Geo character, you will get this ability so fast. So yeah, that's pretty much all to the burst. It does a lot of damage, does even more damage if there's a Jade Screen on the field, and it has a really low energy cost. And for anyone wondering, her third passive will actually display ore veins on your minimap, so that's pretty nice as well. For talent priority, they're honestly pretty similar, but I'd honestly say that normal attack and burst are pretty even, and then Jade Screen. I've seen a lot of people do it that way, that's the way I did as well, and it worked pretty fine for me. Now let's move on to the next section. Now let's talk about Constellations, because as you can see, my Ningguang is C6, and her Constellations are honestly pretty nice. But there's a few main ones I want to talk about. Her C1 allows her normal attacks to also do AoE damage instead of single target damage. Now this could be pretty nice in certain situations, but honestly you won't really notice it all that much because your Jade Screen already does crazy amounts of AoE damage. Your burst also targets multiple people at once. And you're also going to be charge attacking the most. So this is a pretty nice upgrade, but not really needed. Her first important constellation is a C2. When a Jade Screen is shattered, it will actually reset its entire cooldown, which can happen every 6 seconds. Now this is really good because if you proc off the skill again and there's a Jade Screen on the field, it will actually shatter the last one, and you'll have your cooldown back immediately. When an enemy breaks it, it'll also reset. But the cool thing about this is, when you use your burst while Jade Screen's on the field, when that Jade Screen gets destroyed, it will also reset the cooldown. So now your rotation is going to be Jade Screen, burst, Jade Screen, and it actually does so much damage. So this is a huge game-changing constellation for your Ningguang. C3 increases the scaling of the burst. C4 is absolutely useless. I'm not even going to talk about this. This is such a bad constellation. You are not going to notice this at all. C5 increases the scaling of the skill. And then her next big constellation is a C6. When her burst is used, Ningguang will actually gain 7 Star Jades. The max amount you can have is 3. So this constellation lets you go past the max amount and automatically get them after you use your burst. So now your rotation is going to be Jade Screen, walk through it, burst, Jade Screen, charged attack. And it just chunks the bosses and anyone you're facing. It actually is crazy and so much fun. So this was the other constellation I wanted to talk about. And there you go, that's all. There's not really much to say about the constellations, but the 2 constellations you really want to go for is C2 and C6. These are the most damage boosting constellations for Ningguang and practically make her up. They increase the rotation, increase damage, increase the funness. It's just amazing. Now let's go over Ningguang's weapons. But first I want to get all the 5 stars out of the way. All the 5-star catalysts besides the Everlasting Moonglow is probably going to be the best option for you, because they usually have the higher base attacks, higher substat, and the best passives. So Skyward Atlas and Memory of Dust are both really good, but 2 of the best 5-star catalysts are actually going to be Lost Prayer and Kagura's Verity. The reason for that is because they both have crit substats, and they both have passives that actually give you elemental damage bonuses. For example, Kagura's Verity will actually boost your elemental skill damage by a lot, and the more times you use it, you'll actually get an elemental damage bonus on top of that. And for Lost Prayer at Refinement 1, it will actually give you an 8% elemental damage bonus every 4 seconds for a maximum of 4 stacks. So if you're running a main DPS Ningguang and you're on the field for that long, you can get up to 32% elemental damage bonuses, which is actually crazy. So once again, all the 5-star catalysts are going to be your best choice, but the 2 best ones are the Lost Prayer and the Kagura's Verity. Now let's talk 4-star weapons, because there's actually a good amount of things you can use. The 2 most damaging 4-star weapons for Ningguang are the Solar Pearl, which you get from the Battle Pass, and the Wood Sith. As you can see, they both have crit substats, which is amazing for any character, and they both have really good passives. Now at Refined 5, the Wood Sith is going to be better than the Solar Pearl, just because of how much elemental damage bonus you could get, how much attack you could get, but if you did get Elemental Mastery on Ningguang, it's really useless. But the Solar Pearl has a guaranteed passive where after using a normal attack, it will increase your elemental skill and burst damage by 20% for 6 seconds. And this goes both ways. So these 2 are definitely your best 4-star choices. Although I don't see it often, Dodoko Tails is actually pretty good too. Cause like I said in the talent part, normal and charge attacks are a big part of Ningguang's kit. So doing normal attacks to increase your charge attack damage and doing charge attacks to increase your attack is actually pretty helpful. And with Ningguang, you'll have 100% uptime on this, so you'll always have that charge attack damage increase and that attack increase. And it has an attack substat as well, which is always pretty nice. Now I also want to talk about the Black Cliff Agate. Just like other Black Cliff weapons, although its passive is pretty unreliable in boss situations, because with bosses you won't be able to kill opponents to get that attack boost, so it basically renders the passive useless. But don't take it off your radar either, because it still has a crit damage substat, which is really nice, and if you are facing a lot of enemies, you'll get a good attack increase. So it has an unreliable passive, but when it does work, it will work really well for you. Now if you don't have any of those, the 4-star catalyst on the lower end is Frostbearer. It is a good bridge if you don't have another weapon or just waiting to get that next weapon, because I had to do the same thing where I had to craft a Frostbearer for my Ningguang because I had nothing else. But as soon as you get another weapon, you'll want to replace this quickly, so if you're really in desperate need of a weapon, then you can use the Frostbearer catalyst. Now if you're a beginner to the game, the Twin Nephrite actually isn't a bad option either, because it has a crit rate substat, and it actually gives movement speed and attack after defeating an opponent for 15 seconds. So just like the Black Cliff Agate, the passive is pretty unreliable, but this actually is really good because of that crit rate substat, and it's just a good beginner weapon. Which is the reason why I haven't leveled up, because I had nothing else at the time, so this is actually what I use too. But of course, as soon as you get a better weapon, you'll want to replace it. And there you go, that's all it for the weapons. Once again, all the 5 stars are going to be the best for you, but the 2 best are Lost Prayer and Kagura's Verity. And the best 4 stars are going to be Solar Pearl, Wood Sith, Black Cliff Agate, and Dodoko Tails. and then Twin Nephrite if you're a beginner. Now let's talk artifacts for Ningguang. Ningguang's one of the characters who don't have any best in slot for them, so they rely on 2 pieces and those sweet substats for their damage. So I'm gonna put up on screen all the combinations of 2 pieces you can use. You can use 2-piece Archaic, 2-piece Gladiators, 2-piece Shimenawas, and 2-piece Noblesse. You can also use the 2 pieces of the new sets because they also have plus 18% attack. Literally any combinations of these 2 pieces are good for you. Just choose the ones with the best substats. You can run 2-piece Gladiators, 2-piece Shimenawas. You can run 2-piece Gladiators, 2-piece Noblesse, 2-piece Gladiators, 2-piece Archaic. It really doesn't matter. Just as long as you get those substats right, you are going to be alright. Now let's get into substats and main stats. Now of course with Ningguang, you're basically just going to want the damage dealing artifact stats. So that means putting attack percentage on your sands, geo damage bonus on your goblet, and then crit rate or crit damage on your circlet depending on what you need. In my experience, try to get your Ningguang to have a minimum of 60% crit rate and 150 plus crit damage. I know that's going to be hard to get for beginner players, but you will get it eventually once you grind out those artifacts. Around that point is where I saw the biggest damage potential. And if you can push even further above that, then you're just ahead of the game. And then of course for the substats, the main ones you want to focus is crit rate, crit damage, and attack. She doesn't want any elements of mastery because that will not help her damage. She doesn't want any HP, defense. So once you can get artifacts of 41 to crit rate, crit damage, attack percentage, you are going to go crazy. And there you go, that's all for the artifacts. It's really short, really simple. Once again, want a 2-piece of any of those sets I talked about. And since she doesn't have a best in slot, try to prioritize those substats. Because substats are going to be your main priority in getting a lot of that damage. Which is why you see me only having a 2-piece of Gladiators and not a 2-piece of anything else yet, because I don't have the right artifacts. Now team building with Ningguang. When you're running a Ningguang as a main DPS or a burst DPS, there's always one thing you want to have on your team the entire time. And that is the Geo Elemental Resonance. Practically every single Geo damage dealer is really dependent on getting the Resonance because it's so good and boosts your damage by a crap ton. Basically it will increase their shield strength by 50%, and while protected by a shield, they will actually deal 15% increased damage, and when they deal damage to enemies, their Geo resistance will actually be reduced by 20% for 15 seconds. So all these teams will have another Geo character no matter what. If you don't have the Geo Resonance, then you're not doing it right because that is a huge loss of damage. Which is why once again every team will have another Geo user. So let's get on to team crafting. Now in general, you do want to have a Geo user in your party. And it's even better if they're a Geo user that can also shield you. Which is why Noelle and Zhongli are probably some of the best supports for Ningguang. Of course you have another Geo user in general that helps out greatly, because you will get a whole bunch of shards. But if you have another character that can shield you with a good beefy shield so you don't have to worry about it as often, then it's really good. Which is why Ningguang Zhongli is the best combo you can ever have in this entire game, to be honest. Ningguang's squishy and she's Geo, and she needs that Geo resistance. Zhongli has the biggest shield in the game that reduces resistance, he can petrify people, and he fulfills that Geo resonance slot with giving her a giant shield. So if you're running Ningguang, almost every single team you will have if you have Zhongli will have him. But once again, if you don't have Zhongli, you can use another Geo character, especially one that shields you like Noelle, or get crystallization shards from your other Geo teammates. Now the last 2 slots for Ningguang's teams are honestly really flexible, and you can practically put in anything you want. You can put in freeze teams, melt teams, vaporize teams, electrocharge teams, all into these other 2 slots. But the combo that does do the most damage is Ningguang, Zhongli, Zhangling, Bennett. Zhangling puts out a whole bunch of Geo damage for your entire team, while your Ningguang can do a lot of damage on field. And then of course Bennett buffs your attack, heals you, and then on top of that will actually give you the Pyro Resonance, which will actually increase attack by 25%. So although these last 2 slots are pretty flexible, this is the highest damage dealing combination. And then just like I said, you really want to have off-field damage dealing characters so that your Ningguang can thrive. This is a really good freeze team that I actually use pretty often in Spiral Abyss. You can run an Anemo character that helps group up people, and I know although Anemo and Geo don't mix together, you're mainly just using this slot to group them up. And Venti actually turns out to be the best one for this slot. You can run Fish or Beta for a lot of electro damage, Xingqiu Beidou for a lot of electro charge damage, Jingling Boner for high vaporized numbers and big debuffs, and I think you pretty much get the idea. Now Go is a really nice choice if you have 3 Geo characters in that one team. Because his buffs from his elemental skill don't really matter to Ningguang because she doesn't skill off her defense, her increased resistance is nullified if you have Zhongli, but if you have all 3 of them together, you actually get that 15% Geo damage bonus, which is really nice. So you always want to have Geo Resonance for your Ningguang and always have a good shielder. And if you don't have a good shielder, always at least have that one Geo character. And the last 2 slots could be healers, buffers, and off-field damage dealers. Like with Zarya, Diona, Official, Beidou, Bennett, Xingqiu, Lisa, Kujo Sora, Albedo. And there you go, that's pretty much as in-depth I can get about Ningguang's team building. I showed you guys the most damage dealing team, then I showed you a whole bunch of other teams that you can win for freeze teams, electro charge, vaporize, melt, and etc. And always make sure you have that Geo Resonance, because without it, your Ningguang will do a lot less damage. And now it's time for a little bit of a showcase. This is what my Ningguang currently does right now at this moment. I will actually go in depth in a separate video about how much damage she does and do a whole entire big showcase over that. So if you're interested in that, make sure to subscribe if you're new. But for right now, I'm just going to give you a short preview. But before I do that, of course, my Ningguang is level 90 with attack of 2,128, crit rate of 68.4%, crit damage of 195.4%, energy recharge of 144.7%, and a geo damage bonus of 102.6%. I also have the Lost Player at level 90, and which is the reason why I have such a high geo damage bonus, because I've been sitting on it for a while. 2-piece Gladiators, C6, 10, 13, 13. So now we're just gonna talk to Masanori and just absolutely destroy him real quick. So I'm just gonna shield up. I'm gonna show you a quick little damage test real quick. I do normal attacks for 3,640, charge attack of 21k. And it will also go up if I stay on Ningguang longer. 32,000, 22k, 39,000, 24k, which is thanks to Lost Player. And now if I do a Jade Screen, I do 34k if I crit. And then I do my Star Shatter, 15.9k per critical hit on those. And then I do my charge attack, 25k, 7,400 per Star Jade. Now we're actually going to go for the entire rotation, which is going to be very easy to do. Bop, bop, and then place my Jade Screen, Star Shatter, Jade Screen again, and yeah, you see that huge damage I just did? 37k per charge attack on no cooldown. And then 41k Jade Screen. She is absolutely goated with the sauce. And there we go, that is all for the guide. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you now know how to play it, what talents to level up, artifacts, weapons. I wanted to update this guide because that Ningguang guide was one of my first guides, and honestly, it's not that good no more. So I wanted to give it an update on my new spin, my new style, and now that I have more information. So yeah, in conclusion, Ningguang's super fun, can do a lot of damage if you build her right and invest in her, and she's just amazing. I really like her, she's my favorite character. I know this is really biased, but that's just how I feel. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, hope this video helped you, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.